Hi, I'm here with Dr. Ying Iverson, Chief Academic Officer at Westcliff University. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. It's great to meet you.
You too. So I want to start by just hearing a little bit about the work you're doing at Westcliff. I know that you work with a really global and digital first student body. And I'm curious, how would you describe today's new digital student? What's different about the way that they learn even from 3 to 5 years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe just briefly introduce the Westcliff University first. Westcliff University, located in Irvine, California. It's a private university, started early 90s. Right now is a global university, as you mentioned. We have about 9,000 students across the globe. We also have a regional campus across the U.S. as well. So many of them, all our students have some components online, even though a lot of them have on-site study as well. But we like to offer our students the same learning experiences. So no matter what modality they're in, they always have an online classroom. Come in, you have materials there. You can submit assignment. You can see the feedback. So really just providing that kind of service for them, and absolutely student centric, university, very happy to promote the innovation and entrepreneurship and at the university level. So when you talk about what the digital learners now, I think there's a few things we observed, right? One is, as the generation move forward, we're seeing more technology native, and myself has three teenagers. I know that technology is a part of their life since they're born. So obviously, they have higher expectations about what kind of technology they use, right? And then because a lot of like the short videos, the trend emerging in the last 10 years, so YouTube, TikTok and all those things, I think our digital learners all, I would say, more accustomed to the shorter bite-sized learning, materials. I don't think that any one of them would like to sit in front of computer looking at a video for 20 plus minutes, right? So we also need to kind of think about that kind of preference as well. And then we also looking at our currently the digital learners really desire flexibility and accessibility. So many of them are working adults, and in general, U.S. College, we see very much a big population of adult learners, I should say. So they really would like to, accommodate all the different needs in their life. Learning, going to college, getting a degree, it's really just part of their life, right? So they want more flexibility, and that will lead to accessibility, when they can access the learning, how do they do their homework? How do they connect with faculty? All of them needs really different way to approach to it. So we see more flexibility requirements, accessibility. So on cell phone, right? That's all, they can learn from phone. They can connect with faculty on the phone. That's very important as well. The last but not least, we wanted to talk about, maybe mention about, is AI. So we all kind of worked through with the AI in the last couple of years, we know that becomes a very important tool for all us, including faculty, including the academic leaders and students. But that also bringing some of the concerns, and barriers as well, right? How do we know they're authentically doing their assignments, or they actually use AI to do their assignments, and how AI actually impacted the learning habits, and even how much their learning effectiveness as well. So many things are evolving, as a time change. So from a higher ed perspective, we're really trying to keep an eye on all those new developments and to really respond to that as well.
Yeah, I'm really curious about how they're using AI too. I've heard some people talk about it almost as though these students are coming in with a jetpack on. They're able to do so much more and bigger and research better and write more impressive papers and things like that because of AI. And then I've also heard people say that it's almost quietly lowering the bar for everyone, where because you have AI, you're now not thinking as hard. You're kind of using it more as a crutch. Um, are you seeing more of one or of the other at Westcliff? And is there any ways that you found to be able to push students more towards the use it as a jetpack, let it help you do more approach?
I would say both. We see
Okay.
both. Right. So it's not, when a new technology comes along, it's hard to say, one way or the other, it kind of extreme, right?
Mhm,
So, but I can see both, areas and some of the behaviors and also lead to some of the concerns or, encouragement, depending how you see it, right?
mhm,
But at Westcliff, I think as a university, we very much embrace technology. Technology advancement was part of the DNA of the university. The university, as early adopter of Zoom, actually,
mhm,
earlier than most, university and other companies, and they tested Zoom at the early days and really using that, kind of extend the education access to our students. So at Westcliff, we don't see new technology is a scary thing, but really figure out how to best to help our student and faculty to use AI ethically and responsibly. So I would say we see AI is actually a transformative turning point for us to offer more personalized learning and
mhm,
support our student better. Because, like you say, the jetpack, right? Because after all, faculty would not have the same amount of time equally divided by individual students, right? And then with a lot of times that one faculty to like say 10, 15 students, so sometimes it's really hard for them to provide their individual personalized learning, but AI can. AI definitely have that potential to help our students to learn at their own pace, their own needs to supplement to what faculty have done, and have, kind of offer to them. Now, we all know, right? Cheating is happen, probably the day one of learning, right? In the past, you use your in the cheat sheet or, some other things.
uh-huh,
Now you have a technology built into your life, right? Your phone have AI, everything have an AI. So it is easy for a student to use them as crutch that, doesn't have to think about and just use it. So I think we have to approach this from both ends. First of all, we really need to help set some guidelines, some guardrails, so help a student understand this is not an easy way out because we have so much conversation in higher ed in the last 5, 10 years about the return on investment of your education. So we really wanted to make sure with our student knowing that you're paying for education. We want you to get the most out of it, right? The AI is not going to help you to get, if you're using them cheating, right? It's not going to get most of the value out for you. You, as a consumer, you have to understand that. So I think that's one of the things we want them to understand. Do not use them for a crouch because, MIT recently have a research showing that if you're using AI, not have applied critical thinking and things like that, your brain actually slow down. And your skill set actually, like 20 or 30% reduction, right? So we want to make sure our students understand that, set AI policy, set some of the guardrails to really help them understand. But on the other end, we also wanted to, really help our student understanding is that all employer now kind of expect, this generation come out of school know how to use AI because they use AI themselves, right? So it's a disservice from a university standpoint that we don't teach you how to use AI in a correct way. So we are actually using AI into a few things, right? One, we use AI into our curriculum. So we built some personalized, assistive tool in the course room to help students to learn better and provide more personalized learning. Two, we integrate them into curriculum assignments. So they actually have to learn to use different AI tools to compare and contrast and also understand where the gaps are. AI, could be a lot of gaps that they don't know. If they just, take the face value of the AI. And then we also using AI assisted, kind of ebooks system called Paligo. So they use AI tool to help students to broaden their book search. So, they not only gonna see their one textbook, they actually use the AI to could help them search more books related topics. So really broaden their learning and reading, scope, right? And then I think last but not least, we also using AI to be part of the formative assessment right now.
mhm,
So we have our own proprietary tool called Credit Metrics. So really help students to using that as a way to, really digest the contents, really understand why why they're learning certain things and how well they're learning certain things. So with all of those, we are building a digital ecosystem, really use AI assist, but still really focus on learning effectiveness, not just using them for, for like, oh, chasing the next shiny object, right? So I think that's really where we are at right now.
I like that. You're kind of making sure that students see how it can be used really effectively, and you're sort of modeling that sort of behavior, as well as teaching them about using it for research and all of this without kind of directing them into the more productive ways of using it. I do have another question though, based on what you were saying around, students are paying for the university, right? Like you want them to be able to learn a lot and get a lot out of it. But with all of these changes in technology and with so much information being available on the internet through AI, that kind of thing, how are you seeing the role of the university and the role of faculty members changing? And kind of how is Westcliff thinking about making sure that your value is still just as strongly there as it was 20 years ago, even though the content is now a lot more accessible?
That's such a great question. I think this is a really a key questions going forward in the next couple years or maybe more years to for a university and faculty group to wrestle, right? And because we don't have this, we usually talk about what kind of powers do you have, right? In the past, I think faculty seems more in a power that having the knowledge power because they have the knowledge, they have the experience, right? And they would help the student to learn and help them to get access to the knowledge and things like that. And what, the university usually do that as well. But with AI, I think it's really starting to make knowledge even more readily available. I think the internet came about already open up that floodgate, right? People could just go
Mhm.
online to search it, Google, whatever you wanted to do, right? And I think AI is even make that process or that access more accelerated. So really looking at university and looking at, the faculty role is what do we actually provide the most essential value to our students? So, through a lot of, we actually, as a Westcliff, we really focus on practical learning experience because for us is the, learning theory is important. But more importantly, is connected to practical, skill set and competency building with the theory. So that's how been we starting 30 years ago. We have been really performing on this model is partner with the practical, learning, components, which meaning that we hire a lot of practitioners who actually able to put the learning in context, right?
Mm.
Really looking at apply learning instead of just on the textbook and just the theory. And we also closely partner with our industry, kind of industry partners as well. We're looking at what they need from our students. We're looking at how do we prepare a student to accelerate their career? How do they able to really coming out of school already have a really good foundation so they can continue to learn in the workplace, right? So for us, I think this isn't we're not I would don't think that would lose its value because a lot of times our student comes to us, they want to learn new knowledge, but new knowledge in a very absolute context is not very helpful. Only by the time that connect to into the apply, kind of context, really kind of thinking about how does that really play out in real life, right? And how what kind of competency you need to have to be successful in real life, then the value starting to show up and making that student know that how they learning very useful tools when they go into the workforce. So I think that's something that we continue at Westcliff side, we continue to focus on that particular piece. And then I think also with a lot of conversation with our industry partners, continue a theme comes out is that even though technology continue evolve, human is still in the center of the universe in
Mhm.
many times, right? And you could be a very good engineer, software engineer, but if you could not connect with your customers, you don't understand how your customers' needs are, your development may or may not hit the mark, right? So a lot of times right now, I think when technology code mature to a certain level, we start looking at the human piece. So how can we help a student being an effective communicator? How can we help the student have a critical thinking? How can we help a student that have a global mindset to work with people that from a diverse background, right? And those and how do we help students be an innovative thinker, not only just take the projects, take the task at hand, also think about how to innovatively improve it. All of those is what the university needs to continue to focus on. We call it power skills, called power competency we need to focus on. Now, faculty's skill set, I think faculty's role is going to evolve. I think this is going to be a bigger questions at higher ed industry having that conversation, and we are very much so at Westcliff starting having that conversation. Not done yet, just started. They have a conversation say, well, with all the tools available, what do we need faculty really do? Maybe what we really can looking at our faculty, in my personal perspective, right? We have not, like I say, we just started the conversation, but I think that faculty could really play a role is a facilitator, facilitate the learning, right? And also be a co-creator of a knowledge because our student already have a foundational, knowledge by using a lot of technology tool, but they need the guidance to go create their own and new knowledge and new skill set. And faculty could be the one that guiding them and co-creating with them. So it's really a different way to looking at faculty role, but it's essentially, I believe that learning is a human connection, activities. So, faculty's role will never get replaced, but maybe in a very different way with all the technology.
Yeah, I'm so interested in those power skills that you're talking about because in this shift to more people can learn online, also in the shift to more like skills-based, like stackable credentials, that whole movement as well. I think one of the things that can get lost if we're not careful about it is all of those other parts of what you would get in a more like liberal arts kind of education.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying
absolutely.
everyone needs a liberal arts education, but there is a lot of value to those human skills that you're talking about, the critical thinking, the communication, all that part. Can you tell me a little bit more about how are you trying to incorporate all of that into specifically your like online programs and your digital learning?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have the core competency at the institution level. So very much so the power skills is it's part, it's all of them actually. So with that, what we do is we really incorporate to our curriculum design. So we have a Capri model. So we call context, and apply practical, and really trying to make sure our curriculum design from a beginning to really think about all those power skill, how do we weave them into our teaching. So for us is that a few things. One is our faculty need to model that behavior, right? How to really show how students to use that kind of power skills in their their contents, learning the content. And then the second is when we're doing the learning content design, we need to think about, how do we help a student to build this, right? One example is thinking about, okay, with all the AIs, how do you build a critical thinking? So one of the curriculum assignments we have thinking about is that ask our student to use a couple different AI tools to answer the same questions. So then
Okay.
after come back and ask them to analyze it. So analyze them that what's it similar, what's it different, and then you as a student provide a third answer. So start thinking about, what additional things you can add value to the AI provided answer. And then also starting thinking about the gaps, the AI tools, if they could not cover everything, what is missing and how do you fill up that gap? And how do all the answer is actually legit, right? Because we know AI sometimes to make up answers, so you're going to have to check, right? So we want to teach them to think about this, really even use a more critical eyes to looking at the contents, or just like we teach our kids, it's like not every information online is true. So how do you do that, right? Information forensic, how do you kind of say, oh, let me check, the reference that they ask us to do, oh, let me, really do a multiple answers to compare and contrast to see where is the best answers. And then also as a human, what some of the things you have AI tool does not have. So I think, we want to weave in all those kind of different way to teach our students to think about different things, right? And then like communication, even in our technology courses, we ask them do presentations. We ask them to, do group work. Some students like, ooh, group work, online. It's even, more difficult than in person, right? And we all have group projects before in our past lives. Some people pulled away, some people don't, and we're trying to explain to students saying, hey, looks, what? This is a real life play out in a more confined, micro world for you, right? Because when you go out to work, we have people work on the projects. Some people don't, stick to the deadline. Some people don't do
Mhm.
their work. How do you mitigate that? How do you get everyone, kind of driving to the common goal? And, as a technology student, you still need to learn how to communicate with people, right? You still need to do presentation to your team and to your leaders, or maybe higher highest level kind of executive leaders as well. So that's where we continue to weave in some of those power skills across the board. And our hope, of course, is like we want them after a few years with us that they started picking up those, right? No fear anymore and more used to it. And when they get out of the door and they get them their degree, when they get to their work, they feel this is a really come natural. So that's how we kind of approach some of that.
Um, as you're saying this, I'm thinking that it actually sounds way more familiar than I expected it to sound. You talking about that assignment around use AI, like ask different AI programs the same
Yeah.
question.
Hmm.
I remember when I was a student doing that with like different newspapers, different sources on different side of the political spectrum. You're looking up the same event, but from different perspectives, and then you are coming up with your own ideas based on it. Or you're talking about group projects. I certainly did plenty of group projects. They happen to be in person. These ones are online. What I'm taking from what you're saying is that it might look different, but if you squint, it looks kind of similar to how the teaching did 10 years ago. Is that what I should be taking from
Yeah,
it?
I think the competency has not changed. The
Mhm,
context has changed. So
mhm,
I think that's why we say that, all the contents, the curriculum wise, it need to be contextualized,
mhm,
right? So because I think, from a, if you zoom out a bigger picture, I think those power skills never really change that much, right? We're talking about people that who more successful at the workplace or more in life in general is the people have a better power skill sets, right?
mhm,
So, if 20 years ago you're looking at as a case study looking at people, and then 20 years later now you're looking at the people who more success at work in life in general, probably a very similar characteristics you finding, right? Humanity, thinking about, EQ and think about
mhm,
communication and all those things, right? So, but context has changed because, like you mentioned, when you study, you look at newspaper, right? And now newspaper are online. So,
mhm.
you kind of look at digital, footprint and all those other things. So I think we as was a university educator, we need to continue to evolve with the environment, with the context, but really home into is what is the true value and characteristics we want to bring our student. We bring to our students. So you're absolutely right. A lot of the key competency, for years. we continue to develop and cultivate are pretty similar, but the
Mhm.
context has changed significantly.
Do you think that that carries into the structure of the degree program too? Are you all looking at any like stackable credentials, more skills based, that kind of thing? And do you view that the same way of like, okay, the context of what people might be looking for is a little bit different, even if the skills are inherently very similar?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, going back to the earlier conversation about, it's a flexibility and accessibility, right? So I think we seeing more and more. I was just looking at some of the articles saying that it could potentially have 74, 75% of, non-traditional learners, enroll into colleges now. So really looking at people who are over 25, maybe already have other, part of their life experience and trying to go through a degree from an undergrad standpoint, right? And the master level and doctoral level, even more so, a lot of them are working. So, and I honestly, education costs is also continue raise too, right? Rising too. So we need to think about how do we meet where our students, where our learners at. So, shorter programs, more focus on competency and skill based, kind of a micro credential definitely is, the future to go. I think the key is how do we structure those micro credential and the certificate program while we are looking at the overall degree pathway, right? So we don't want them just stand alone. We want to weave them in, right? So
Mhm.
when people that go maybe saying that let's take a 4 courses, stackable, certificate, and hopefully they will think, oh, next 4 courses, right? And then maybe next 4 courses. By the time they get in there, they may already, 3 certificate later, they may already get a degree out of it. So I think we need to kind of think through that because when you design a degree program, you want to have the program learning outcome scaffold into the course learning outcome. And then, really starting to have a more systematic way to train our students and learners. So when you're doing short-term degree programs, sometimes it does present its challenge is become, kind of separate out from the overall picture, but there's a way to do it, and it just need to be more intentional design it so our student can just pick and choose, at the point that what they need, but they also can come back to a degree program. So I think that's really some of the things we're looking at. And with that, we're also thinking about how do we do a better job of transfer credits too. Because I
Mm.
think that's another thing, right? For me, is that if we are offering, extending education access to a global, audience, which is part of what Westcliff's mission, we need to really think about how do we help being more transfer credit friendly institution. How do we not asking our student to waste their previous effort or their financial investment? They can come in, bring their previous life or past experience, come to us, be able to pick it up where they left, and then they can continue to go on. So I think there is some structure part of work need to be done, right? So but there's also some design thinking need to be in place as well to help student being, really hopefully not setting up any barriers, actually help them accelerate their learning path.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, if students come in with some of their credits and they're taking things that are interesting to them and that they think they're going to need in their career and they end up halfway through a degree program, that's kind of the ideal, right? And it kind of
Absolutely.
shows them that they're on the right track and that it's all going
Yeah.
to add up to something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That would be the ideal, outcome.
Yeah. So I do have one last question for you. If you, looking at all these things that you're talking about and all of the ways that you are kind of adapting to the new world, if you were to redesign higher ed from scratch, like let's say you didn't have to work within the confines of what people are expecting or what they think is going to happen when they come to a university. Given what you know about today's students and today's tech, what is just one or two things that you would do differently?
Oh, that's such a great question. Um, I think that if we don't have any limitation, any confines, I think, it would be great to be. more of those micro-credential that focus on the certain competency, and then you can piece them all together. So, because I think right now our US undergrad, just from an undergrad standpoint, there is 2 years gen ed requirements, right? And then there's upper level and all those things. I wish we could be more package them in a different way so students don't have to spend necessary 4 years. They can accelerate, they could just, pull in other, macro potential to fulfill the needs and then they can move forward. Ideally, they can finish their undergrad maybe, 2 or 3 years. I know there's a lot of conversation happening right now about 3 years undergrad. So, and that, other countries, a lot of them don't necessarily have a gen ed requirements
Mhm.
in the undergrad, right? So a lot of other, I think, institution in the world able to offer a faster or maybe more specialized programs to our undergrad students. So and then the other thing is, you say, if we could be able to design all the micro credential, kind of focus on a certain skill set and certain, competency, they could just collect them along the way. By the
Mhm.
time they collecting, there's almost feel like, you have a coins, you collect 5 coins, and then you maybe already at the level that, being in the master level or something like that. I always promote a better, flexible, kind of a program structure. Maybe there is some core set of contents you need to learn, but then other things that you can just bring in your previous, kind of work experience, bring in your previous learning or certificate, be able to fulfill the elective portion of it, right? And then your degree program may only need to at the year level 1 year. Then you can bring in other things could transfer to fulfill other needs, other credits. So I think this is totally doable, and we have talked about stackable certificate or programs for many years. I just have not seen a very successful case yet. But I think, definitely worth to continue explore and continue figure it out. How do we support our students, our learners, at where they are at? And I think there's ultimately student-centric, student first should be our, really the philosophy we're driving forward.
I like that a lot. There's so many different ways to learn something. Wouldn't it be nice if all of those different ways could be recognized and kind of brought together
Absolutely.
into your summative degree or whatever we're gonna call it?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree because everyone have a different learning styles and learning preference, right? And some, if we can recognize even the hands-on experience, that would be great because you think about, maybe somebody, I think make no sense for somebody, let's say software engineers, does not have an undergrad degree, but they doing, for years, right, in the job and then come to the university, they still have to go through, 0, 0, 1 kind of a, kind of
Yeah.
situation that make no sense, right? So I think we should be able to find a way, a system to recognize work experience, and then that would be kind of getting the credits that they need, so they really just able to go through the learning for what they really lacking, but maybe that's something that they desire to continue to move forward. So, but, we just have to be more creative, I guess.
I like that. That's actually how I feel a lot about higher ed. I think we have so many opportunities and so many passionate people, and we just need a little more creativity and a little bit more room for it.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This has given me so many great things to think about. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you to having me.